Hello my friends, and welcome back to our Advent adventure. What are we like? We are still going, pressing in and embracing reality. We are not running from reality. We are journeying deeper and deeper into it. The Advent story is not about drinking so much alcohol you forget how messed up the world is. It's not putting up so much tinsel you can't see how messed up the world is. It's about coming into reality to such a depth that we can handle how messed up the world is. And life is difficult and life is hard, and I think sometimes we get criticized as Christians for peddling the gospel as an escape from reality, as an escape from difficulty. And the Bible makes massive promises about resurrection and restored bodies and a restored creation, but it doesn't promise us a life without difficulty. In fact, it promises the opposite. But God didn't just sit back and let us get on with it. Of course, He enters into this fully and He knows what it's like. And today, part of what we're going to be talking about is, what's the best way to put it? Some of the terrible price involved in having a free world, a sin-free world, a world that's restored and just, and God's kindness is seen and God's knowledge covers the earth. And of course, I'm talking about after Jesus has come back. That's our real Advent. Back in that first Christmas, they had been looking forward to His first appearing. Now we are looking forward to His second appearing. The first time He came to deal with sin, this time He's coming in power to put everything right, not just invisibly, but physically, visually. It's going to be an entire reality, not just a partial reality. And as you can tell, reality is a key word here. So where are we in the story? Well, yesterday we talked about the Magi, these wise men who came and they sought Jesus and they worshipped Him. But we didn't talk about how they got there. They got there by following what the Bible calls a star. And let me just say this as an aside. If you're getting background noises, I live in a busy house. I can't nail everybody's feet to the floor and keep all the doors shut. So just I don't know if it's coming up in the mic or not. So forgive me if it is. But we have this phenomenon, this star, and we don't know whether it was a natural phenomenon that God took advantage of. We don't know whether it was entirely supernatural. I think possibly a mixture of both. You see, back then, to see something in the stars, like the birth of a king, that was like, well, duh, obviously. That was really common knowledge in most of the nations. The Jewish people didn't follow it. God had forbidden them to because, well, you're walking into a satanic trap, basically, but God works with what He has got, and He allowed this sign to be seen in the heavens. And the wise men were able to interpret it, and it took them to Jerusalem. Well, actually, they took them to Jerusalem, and I'm assuming they thought, well, a king's being born, let's head to the palace. They were obviously, as I said yesterday, had tremendous influence that they could get in front of Herod. I mean, these guys had some clout. And then he wants to know what's going on. Oh, well, we've come to worship the King of the Jews. And this guy is so depraved. He is so handed over to evil. He doesn't go, so hang on, the King of the Jews is about to be born. Oh my goodness, I need to get on board here. God is on the move. No, he sets himself against it. He is working for the enemy. He's consumed by darkness. So instead of, as the King of the Jews, working with the God of the Jews, he sets himself up in opposition. And whilst they're at the palace, the wise men hear about Bethlehem being the place of Jesus' birth, and off they go. If I pick up in chapter 2 of Matthew, verse 9, after this interview, the wise men went their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. Now, isn't that interesting? I wonder whether there's a natural phenomenon and a supernatural one, that in that last leg, when they looked again, they went, oh, It's Bethlehem. But we can't know for sure. And that's how God wants it, is we don't get all the details, we get the broad brushstrokes, and what's not written is as important as what is written. They came to Herod. He showed himself to be the fake king of the Jews. God warns these men in a dream not to go back to Herod to give Jesus his position away. And so they get, I'm assuming, their entourage together and they sneak out by night, go out a different way, and they avoid Herod altogether. And Jesus is spared. And another day we'll look at his flight into Egypt. But of course, what happens next? Well, it's terrible. In Matthew chapter 2, verse 16, it says, Herod was furious when he realized that the wise men had outwitted him. He sent soldiers to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, based on the wise men's report of the star's first appearance. Herod's brutal action fulfilled what God had spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. And this is Jeremiah 31:15. A cry was heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeps for her children, refusing to be comforted, for they are dead. And so we get the time frame here because Herod goes after all the boys 2 years and under. So this is how we know, one of the ways we know that Jesus was that much older, that they'd have been in their own house. But the thing for me is I don't know what the word is to describe it, is the level of evil that this man, to preserve his position, when clearly God is moving, he has these children murdered, and we don't know how many. If, what would you say, 12, 15, if there was 300 in the village, maybe 50 if there was 1,000 in the village, because we don't know exactly what size Bethlehem was at that time. But it's a tragedy, a travesty, a wickedness beyond measure. And what we learn here is that for God to rescue the world, there's huge cost. And we always want to blame God for the evil. Well, if God was so good, why did those babies have to die? If God was so good, why is there all the suffering in the world? Well, if we'd read the Bible, we'd find out why there's all the suffering in the world. It's because we were so bad, not because God is so good. Well, if God is so good, what's he doing about all this suffering? He came, he suffered, he died, he rose again. And now he with open arms, he is drawing into his kingdom anyone who will listen, anyone who will say yes. Just come on in. The table is set, the wine is out, the plates are full. Come on in. And God is prepared to keep those doors open. And he knew there would be this suffering. He knew what it was going to cost him. But how big is the prize if someone who is as good, as kind, as gentle, as loving as God, if he's prepared to allow this suffering, how big is the prize? And of course, that's our Advent. We are looking for that day when the Son of Righteousness rises with healing in his wings, when death is forever swallowed up by immortality, when life reigns supreme and sin is no more. So within this story, within the fabric of this narrative, there is tragedy, there is heartbreak, but it's never the end of the story, because when the end comes, it's going to be a beautiful new beginning. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. I do appreciate you taking this time, and thank you for the comments. Keep them coming because I love it. Be sure to like, to share, to subscribe. I think you've got to like and follow the Facebook page, subscribe and hit notifications on the YouTube page, and let's carry on our journey together into reality. And don't forget, I'll put the email address, the web link there, where you can sign up for our webinars and loads of other cool stuff. And it's all free. There's no charge on any of that. So we'd love to have you. Go well, my friends. Every blessing. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.